Today's guest, mithR, has had one of the most remarkable careers in Counter-Strike history, from teaching CS to students in Denmark to coaching one of the most iconic organizations in esports, Team Liquid. Honestly, when I first heard about CS being taught in classrooms, I assumed it was just kids playing matchmaking and killing time. So I was genuinely surprised to learn that some of his former students have already broken into the top 30. But after diving into how those classes were actually structured and hearing about the depth of knowledge being shared, it all started to click. You'll hear all about that and plenty more, as he had quite the journey coaching Mouse, Renegades, Nord, and even my old team Apeks. Let's jump right into it. Okay, Torbjorn, so you were a teacher of Counter-Strike in school, but before we start, you need to explain this further, because this is, to 99% of the world, this is unheard of. So what do you do?
As a teacher?
Yeah.
I was streaming in a basement of a collective where I was living and studying, actually, at the university. And then I got this offer to go to the school. And to be honest, in the beginning, I didn't even know what it was. You just go on to this school, and it's like a 9th grade, 10th grade for kids that are 15, 16 years old. And they're going to live at the school for 1 year. It's something called the continuation school in Denmark. Very popular, very traditional. But the way that it is that you have some line courses, it's called, where you have a hobby or some kind of an interest, and esports could be one of them, but it could also be like a football, it could also be fashion, it could be a lot of different things. Esports was obviously one of them, and me coming in, I knew something about CS, but it became more and more clear to me that we wanted to create some kind of a curriculum. So how do you do that in CS? You need to have like good routines on how you want to train as an individual. You need to have a good understanding on how you actually start up as a team. You need to have good understanding on and learn and be taught about like how the different roles work in the game, and also how to actually perfect and play those roles. And we would do that through demo examples and going through demos, and also teaching everyone how to. It's very basic when you're teaching at a school at that level. So it's like the lurker is the guy who's shooting the enemy in the back when they have their attention somewhere else. That's how you would describe that role. The entry fragger is the guy who's running in first and stuff. And obviously some of the students were playing at a bit of a higher level. Some of them was actually pretty good, I'd say, semi-pro. Like I think 1 or 2 of them actually just broke into top 30. I think some of the gaming gladiators players are actually playing there now. I used to go to that school where I was teaching after I stopped though. But teaching became it's something that we found out along the way that we basically had to invent it. But at this point, there's a full curriculum with going through like fakes and economy and stuff. They are specialized in only teaching in Counter-Strike at the same school. And I have been a censor 3 times, I think, at the school for their exams at the end of the year. And the exams is very also basic in some ways, where you come in, you take a question, then you have 15 minutes to prepare your presentation, and then you have a presentation that lasts for 7 to 9 minutes in front of their 2 teachers and me. And then you get like a result.
Okay. So do you think stripping these like fundamentals to the bare bones for your students, it creates some kind of early advantage over their peers, let's say other 15, 16-year-old players on FACEIT? Do you think it pushes them forward in a way?
Yeah, it pushes the students forward, definitely, when they have been taught how the game is about to function. And I think that's also something that both you and I know, coming from a lot of international teams, is that one thing that a lot of teams has, and that's actually whether it's national or international, is that you have a playbook or you have code words, and you're low-key kind of creating a common language for the game. And that's something that we tried to do. So like when you're starting the round by smoking something because you want to send a signal to the opponent that we're coming, or you're faking that you're coming, or whatever the case might be, we would call that signal nades or signal utility back at the school. We would also talk about who's working first on the map. That would be the work group. The work group would be a part of the mission of taking map control. And so by that way, we created some kind of a common language within the school. And that definitely gave them an advantage, because they might have called it different things, but they still understood the dynamics of what is important when it comes to communication in a team. And that is, to my understanding, also one of the biggest things to actually work with when you go into a professional team, or if you ever go into a professional team, or just a serious team for that matter.
Okay, yeah, that sounds reasonable. Common language is definitely, especially in international teams where English is probably not the main language for everyone. It gets hard to explain your thoughts without using proper words. So I want to ask, how do you explain to these kids that sometimes these quote unquote boring tasks like analyzing or theory crafting or creating a code words have greater benefits for them than just playing the game, just queue up or play that match? How do you do it?
When you start teaching, you also look at what the professionals are doing on Twitter and whatever, and on streams and so on. And one thing that really annoyed me was that back then, at least, streaming started to become more and more popular. Like, we're back in 2016, so it's 8 years ago, 15 maybe even, I can't remember. But the point was that whenever that amateur players, they would be asking professionals for advice, the professionals would just be like, played a lot of deathmatch and watch a lot of demos. It is such a bad advice. It is the worst advice. So we tried to give them some kind of a purpose to practice with. And we had 2 full days a week where we would have esports, but we were started like 8:30 in the morning. You're not able to find any scrims at 8:30 in the morning. And even because people at that level, they practice after school or after work. What can you do? What we did was giving them some tasks where we would tell them, today we're going to watch this demo from Fnatic. I want you to figure out, that's a very old Fnatic demo where and that's all the way back when they had like Pronax on the team, Vugo as a coach, and they were winning a lot. And they played against Astralis back then. Just one thing that caught my mind watching that demo, preparing for class, was that Fnatic would be boosting at the bottom banana as T on Inferno in the beginning of the round. Back then, there was like this pot that like planned at the bottom of at the ramp that you could boost on top of, so you could see above the deep banana smoke. And they did it instantly in the first buy round. And then I told the class, your job today is to find out why they're using this strat. Why are they using this strat in the first one? And there was 2 classmates, or two of my students, who were figuring out, in the last 3 games, Astralis has been doing a deep banana take with free fast in the first weapon round. But that's a pretty good explanation as to why Fnatic, they would do it in the first buy round, is because of the anti. So that's something that we would teach them, right? What we tried to do when it came to like how to watch demos and whatever, was to give people a purpose. Like, when you go into a scrim, what do you want to focus on? What do you want to achieve? When you play deathmatch, how do you want to practice your aim? Don't go into deathmatch and just go for 100 kills as fast as you can. Like, you need to actually train different ways of aiming. We would go for 3 different ones. Like, you would either do 1-taps, you would do tap shoots where you would send like 2-3 bullets off individually, or you would do like bursts. And those were the 3 different things. And we would do 20 minutes of deathmatch with like loud music coming out the speakers. And then we would do an aimbot session before that to warm up. And then we would do some kind of, I think it was aim underscore training or something, where you had these different dots coming up different kind of the maps. So you had to use your hand in order to actually swing the mouse. So we tried to do like different kind of aim techniques with them, and also tell them, don't go in and open a demo and just watch a demo. Before you open the demo, you actually need to write down on a piece of paper in front of you, what are you looking for? What do you want to achieve with this demo? Because instead of if you want to see how they execute A side on Mirage, now you can skip all the pistols, you can skip all the anti-ecos, and now you only have to look for the weapon rounds where you can see that they're ending A. Back then, you didn't have Skybox and Oasis and all the 2D tools. You would have to do it like with in-eye demos. So you give people purpose and you give them a direction so they work more efficiently, which is, I reckon, something that you have worked with a lot as well. Like, how can I be as efficient as possible in my life?
100%. Because at some point I realized that grinding it's a way when you're maybe 16, 17 years old. But as you get older, grinding becomes much tougher mentally and time-wise as well. Then you have to actually keep working smart instead of keep working hard. And it's beautiful that you nurture this kind of mindset in players at a younger age. I think it creates much more productive level up system. But honestly, you were coaching players that made it to the major. You also coached an academy team, so like a semi-pro level. And then you also coached students in your school, which are complete amateurs. Can you tell me what kind of biggest weakness in players for each of these stages are? And How would you work with that weakness so you advance one level up? So let's say from the student of your class into semi-pro. I know it's very individualistic, but can you give me some proper examples, maybe from your own experience? SkinsMonkey is a reputable, fully automated website that provides an instant way to get new skins. Just look at how easy it is to trade your old skins for new ones in just a few minutes. You can have completely new skins. If you use the code STYKO, you can get up to $5 for free as a first trade bonus. The more you trade, the larger the bonus. And if you don't feel like trading, you can simply buy skins too. They also have 35% deposit bonus with code STYKO, along with a free section where you can complete simple tasks to get skins and join daily, weekly or monthly giveaways. Check out SkinsMonkey by clicking the link in the description of this video. And before we move on, thank you SkinsMonkey for making my content better. But now it's time to continue.
The biggest weakness, I think a simple way to answer that question is, the biggest weakness is that a lot of players are not willing to do what is boring in order to become good. They are not using their time well enough. I think that what I saw actually there's a lot of history here, because I felt like that I have been through it all. As you said, now I've been through the school system, I've been through the academy teams, I've been through tier 1 multiple times. And then now I'm back in tier 1, where I actually feel like for the first time I'm in a tier 1 team where I am super defined on how I want to work and what I expect from the players and what kind of culture and environment that I want to create. Because I have learned from my own mistakes and also from others' mistakes along the way. So I think the easy answer to this one is you need to be willing to do what is boring in order to become good. When I see academy players or students, let's start with the students, for instance, if they wanted to become good, you cannot flirt with this girl. You cannot spend time with actually being in the relationship with this girl or taking part of the drama. Now, everybody else is going to see the football game or going to this festival to listen to music and have fun together. You have to practice. Yeah. That is one of the sacrifices that you're doing. Like next week, I'm going to a qualifier in NA with 4 teams that are way below us in the rankings. We're expected to win. I have to go to that event and actually attend that event, and I have to say no to one of my best friend's weddings. I cannot go to that wedding. On Tuesday, my dad is turning 74. Right? I'm not able to go to his birthday even. And I haven't been to his birthday for the last 3 years. He's turning 74. I don't know how many years he has left. Those are some of the sacrifices that professionals are doing in order to become the best. And it sucks, but that's just how it is. You have to schedule your life around wanting to become a professional player. And that's also one of the things I experienced that in North actually at the beginning. That was my first tier 1 team at the time. When I started, we were maybe top 6. And I remember we had a discussion on why the things started to go bad within the team and why we started to fall in the rankings, drop in the rankings. And I remember something very clearly where I spoke with the team, I don't feel like that CS is our number 1 priority in this team. One of the arguments that hit me back, I'm not going to say who it was or anything, but one of the arguments I got back was yeah, but I also back home, I also got a girlfriend I need to spend time with. I have daily duties in my house and I have to take care of and do laundry and make food. And I also have a life outside of CS. And to this day, I feel like, no, you don't. You do not have a life next to CS, not when you're playing tier 1. This is your life.
Yeah.
If you want to be a part of the absolute best players in the world, fight for the biggest championships, then this is your number 1 priority. And truth be told, when everything started to pop off 10 years ago and you saw players starting to get huge salaries and whatever, everyone started to have fun because, now I have a filled bank account. I can buy this nice car. I'm going to buy this nice apartment. And who doesn't like to spend money? Everybody thinks it's fun to spend money once you actually do it. But the problem was that it takes your attention away from what you actually had to put your attention to. And that's playing CS and become good at the game. At the same time, I'd say that's similar for the students as well as it is for the academy players. That is, you'll see players that are too focused on the theory behind CS because that is what they think is fun and not focused on playing pucks and playing the game. And you'll see players that are too focused on just playing Face-It and never studying the reason behind anything.
Yeah.
And you need to balance the two. I feel like that the team that I'm a part of now, when I'm in Liquid, is I have never experienced this kind of professionalism in my career, hands down. It is insane with the work ethic that I see within the team. It is, for the first time in any team I've been, I'm like, am I getting outworked here? That is the first time that I have ever experienced that, because we will meet up for practice at 9:30 in the morning, where the in-game leader and we're meeting up to discuss like today's goals and what we want to do and what he has brought and what I want to go through and so on. Then we meet up with the rest of the team 10:30 and have like theory, and then we go through all the theory stuff, and everybody is writing into the same playbook and writing their own roles down before half an hour of warm-up. Then we have 5 scrims and finishes at 6 or 7, and then people are taking half an hour break, and then you will see them grind afterwards. They will sit on Skybox and study the demos from today's scrims. They will go through it together. They will find new smokes. They will play pucks together, and they will do the same next morning from 9:30 on. And it's close to being every day. There's 2 times a week where some of them I'm completely fried, where I have actually been ordering people not to do anything some nights because they need time for their brain to relax, because it's about balance. But when it comes to actually making the sacrifices, dude, like, this is on another level than what I'm experiencing.
You're having talk with your IGL at 9:30 in the morning. He has a wife. It's Twist right now in Liquid. He has a wife. He moved across the globe to play Counter-Strike professionally. That already tells you how much of a sacrifice he's willing to do in order to become the best, and that is pretty admirable, honestly.
It is. It's also funny because I joined this team and I make that statement that Twist might have the potential to actually become one of the great we have ever seen, and I completely stand by that. Like, he has the potential. That doesn't mean that he's going to achieve it. That doesn't mean that he's actually going to do it. That's easier said than done. But from what people were making fun of that statement into the results that we have been getting, into the amount of work that I see him put in every day, I completely stand by that statement. And that's coming from someone. I have been working with some of the best in-game leaders over the years at the peak of their time, or when they used to be good. MSL used to be one of the best in-game leaders back in his day. I did work with Kerrigan in Mouse. I did work with Cadian back in North when I first joined the team. Maybe not for very long with any of those guys, but at the same time, I've been around.
Yeah.
And what I see here is definitely there's potential, because he is. No, it's not supposed to be about him, but no, he is incredible. The team is incredible. The amount of discipline and hard work ethic within the team is incredible, but it also comes down to what kind of culture you want to create as a team. That's something that you and I definitely did not achieve in Apeks, where the culture that we have in Liquid right now is everything that I would ever want it to be. And it's a little bit the same actually as what I did back in the Rebels project and the Academy project.
Yeah, definitely not jealous, but let's move on. Let's move on to this. Let's get back to the players you have coached over the time, and like a recommendation, quality do you think is extremely undervalued or overlooked that you wish that players you coach worked on more? So maybe it could be like analyzing or having strict routines. But can you pick one? I know it might be hard right now from the top of your head, but what would be the quality that is like super undervalued?
Offering help, I'd say. Offering help is probably the biggest thing or maybe even more asking for help. That might be even bigger. It's very rare that you'll see players have an open mind to criticism. I have worked with a lot of players, and so have you, where as soon as you would say anything, you would just be like punched back instantly, where you're not able to work with those players.
Not physically. We're not talking physically.
But you would instantly be met with resistance, right? Where the intent of the criticism is to help you become better. And some players don't know that. And to be fair, I am done with trying. Like, I give criticism in a good and productive way. At least I try to every time. And I cannot be blamed that you're taking offense, because what I'm trying to achieve is actually trying to make you better. Like, I had an experience not too long ago within our team, actually, where I had to give a player criticism, and that resulted in some kind of frustration. And in the break, I would tell that player, well, you need to be back in 30 minutes so we can figure this out. So I cut that player's break short, basically, because now we need to actually discuss what is it. We need to go through this, because I'm not going to go on and you and I are on bad terms. And we fixed it, and we also spoke the next morning, and we're good. I think that the biggest ability is actually to ask for help or to actually be receptive for criticism. I think that is one of the biggest abilities that I would actually appreciate in a player, but it's also something that is way easier said than done. There is unfortunately a tendency with a lot of professional players that they are not very receptive when it comes to any kind of feedback, that being like productive feedback or positive feedback for that matter.
Yeah. From my experience, it comes to an ego as well. You have to swallow the ego to accept that someone is better than you in some area, and you look for like making that gap of knowledge smaller. And it might be that even player, I'm going to give you an example. Robs is asking a feedback from Kerrigan, even though obviously Robs might be a much better player, but Kerrigan is better in some things. For example, reading the rounds. And asking this question makes Robs' ability to read the rounds a little bit better, and then he can help Kerrigan in crucial situations. So sharing this knowledge and asking for it is actually super undervalued skill to develop your Counter-Strike mindset. And maybe you will not agree with the feedback, but that's all right, because you learn something new, how other players think about it. I think that's an important concept to have. But it puts me nice into the next segment where you as a coach, you are usually responsible for motivation and training. So, for example, cutting the break short for one of your players. But what about listeners to our conversation that they do not have the coach yet? How do you think they should keep themselves accountable doing tasks they maybe enjoy less to keep improving? It comes back to those sacrifices you were saying. You have to do sometimes boring tasks. How do you force yourself to do it?
Oh, that's hard. It's hard. Right now, there's a lot of 2D tools available, and one thing that I have definitely learned from also working with both sports psychologists and psychologists in the past is that you need to invest in yourself if you want to become good. Like, you need to actually actively invest in yourself, if that being a personal trainer at the gym, if that being like having a personal CS coach, if that being subscribing to Martin's teaching channel. There's a lot of ways to do this, right? But whatever you feel like is making you better, that can make you better. I would say that investing in something like a 2D tool, and there's a lot of them out there now, is very important, because all you need now is to record an in-eye demo and upload that in-eye demo to the 2D tool, and they will make it into a normal like GoTV demo, if that's even what it's called. Looking through that demo, and after you have played, and actually looking or just watching the in-eye demo for that matter, and seeing what you could have done better is super important. But also, again, even with this one, it's the same thing as what I talked about with the school. Before you open that demo, you need to know what you're looking for. And the more specific you can be, like if you ask yourself that question, what am I looking for? The more accurate or specific you can be with answering that question, the easier it's going to be for you, and the more efficient you're going to be watching through that demo. Like if I'm practicing with the team and we're having 3 new strats that day that we're trying to practice, or a new default, then I will only look for that default in that demo. So all the rounds where we had some kind of a momentum call, or we did some kind of a rush, or we had full Glocky go or whatever, I'm just going to skip those rounds.
Yeah.
And now I know what I'm going to evaluate that I need to look through. I think that is super important. And then also ask yourself the question is why not. People have a tendency of actually finding or looking for who's responsible for us losing the round. There's a very big tendency of looking for the bad stuff. Don't look necessarily only for what sucks in the game or what is going wrong or where you're making mistakes. Look at why you're winning, right? Why are we winning? And you need to look at this from a team's perspective, not look at why you were clutching a 1-on-3. Because to be honest, if you're playing a scrim and you're clutching a 1-on-3 in the post plant, that might be good of you as an individual, but you as a team has failed that round. And you need to figure out, like in the rounds where you're actually completely annihilating everyone, look into why is it exactly that you're winning this round? Is the timing good? Are you manipulating the rotations as you intended to? Are you remembering your running patterns? And sometimes people forget actually to praise even the small things, like you're doing and in this strat, you have to throw different kind of smokes and run in a specific way. And the first guy has to clear this angle, and the second guy has to clear another angle. If you actually do what you have agreed, I also feel like this is something that you should highlight in the evaluation afterwards when you look through this demo. And it might be that everybody's just doing what you already have agreed to, but that's good, no? That's exactly what you're supposed to do. This is what you should keep on doing. So you should actually look through this demo and talk about it. And there's a very big tendency of like you're playing the default and you're getting all the map control, and then you do the execute, but you lose the post-planted situation. And then people will look at this, like a lot of teams and players will look at this round and they will start focusing on why did we lose the post-plant situation? The first 90% of this round were perfect. Why don't you focus on the first 90%?
Yeah.
Of course you can fix the post-plant situation, but you should also focus on why is it that things are working for us? Like we're getting all the map control, you're manipulating the CTs just like you intended to. Why are you not focusing on that part? That's because that everybody has like this critical mindset where we're trying to focus on mistakes and what to do better and blah, 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 blah. And we did this mistake actually at Cologne with Liquid where we just won against Pain and we started to focus on all the mistakes we were doing. And then the next day we lost against FaZe and we also focused on all the mistakes we were doing.
Yeah.
And if we go down that path, I'm telling you, like you're going to be drained and demotivated and angry with each other and create so many arguments within the team because now you're going down this path where you're creating a work environment and a culture within the team where nothing is positive.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. It's also sometimes happening that you might be losing like 0-5 in the first half, and all of those 5 rounds you lost like an afterplant, and you're thinking that you're being outplayed because you're down so much, but in reality, you're outplaying them with the calls. You're getting to good situations that are winnable, and yeah, sometimes it happens. Someone whiffs, someone loses a 1v1. Maybe there's a missed smoke afterplant or something like that, or some smoke defuse happen, but you were better that round. You were better team that round. And focusing on that, at least during the heat of the moment, during the actual game where you need to remain positive, that is a key to comeback mentality, in my opinion.
There's also this tendency of players not taking responsibility. That's also actually one of the gifts, I would say, that a lot of players should have. That is, if you're making a mistake, let the team know that you made a mistake.
That's
that
beautiful.
Way also, for me as a coach, and also the team is not going to highlight that thing, right? It is important that you stand by the mistakes that you're doing in front of the team. Don't be afraid of looking weak. You'll actually looking strong because of it. And now the others is not going to be frustrated with you anymore because they know that you made a mistake. And it doesn't matter what it is. If you miss the smoke and we lose because of it, it's your responsibility to say you're sorry. You just lost us the round. You maybe even lost us 2 because we have an eco the next round, right?
Yeah.
Because of one smoke got missed. And that's something where I'm very stubborn as a coach, where I'm like, I need to hear you say it. And I'm going to highlight, why are you missing this smoke? I already know I made this mistake. Yeah, but why are you not saying it then? Yeah, but because I already know. But we don't know that. Like, I need you to tell the rest of you just wasted our time for 4 minutes or 2 or 3 rounds in the game.
Yeah,
like, why are you not saying you're sorry about this? Or not saying that you're sorry necessarily because people are afraid of, there's a lot of players also that is afraid of losing face. But that's not what it's about. It's about progress. It's about actually being efficient with your time. It's about actually taking a step forward and being a good team and being a good teammate also. And so, stand up for your mistakes, I'd say.
Yeah. People have certain aspirations in game, and sometimes players mistakenly aspire to be perfect. And I'm going to tell you that every single player, every round does at least one mistake in some kind of way. Let's say a positional mistake or aiming mistake, or he screws something up. It happens a lot in a game of Counter-Strike where it's so much action going on that it's borderline impossible to play perfect compared to, let's say, chess, where you always have a perfect move on the board. It's up to you to find it. In CS, it doesn't work like that. Working around people, especially back in your students' time, so let's say an amateurs or a semi-pro, you work around people with certain aspirations, and sometimes those aspirations are not met with success. So a lot of players who want to become pro players, they fail at it. And how do you recognize that someone is not going to make it? Or do these kids have something in common that our listeners need to avoid at any cost? Because you obviously coached a lot of students of yours, and I'm pretty sure not all of them make it to the level they wished to make.
No, we actually do where all the students, they could put up their hand at the beginning of the year, and I would be asking them the question, so how many of you want to go pro? And probably 90% would put up their hand. And that's where, you think you want to go pro. You don't really want to go pro. because you don't want to go pro as much as you want to have fun. You don't want to go pro as much as you want to hang out with the boys. You don't want to go pro as much as you want to go out Saturday night. And like when you have that open qualifier Sunday morning at 10 a.m., but your boys is going out Saturday night and you want to join them, right? What do? And this is the scary thing that many people probably don't know. I have seen pro players before grand finals hit the club. Before grand finals, we're talking tier 1 events here.
Yeah.
They would be going to the club and they would drink and they would go on stage the next day and play, sometimes even win. That doesn't mean that and that's something that people did back in the day. You don't see that anymore. Let me make that very clear. You do not see that anymore. But back in the day, people would be so loose about it. But there has been a huge step and a huge jump in professionalism in esports. I think the way that one way that I have recognized it is that if I can see the work ethic is primarily what I feel like is the tell I have to someone if they're going to make it or not. Sometimes people misunderstand their role, where you have a lot of talent, but you're just not individually skilled enough. And I don't know what it is, but sometimes you can just see it. You can just see it that the way that they think in pressured situations is not good enough and is probably not ever going to be good enough. You can also see that their mechanics is not good enough, but a lot of these things can be trained. You actually train your way out of these things, but it is becoming more and more clear over the years as esports has become more and more professional that you need a mixture of raw talent and great individual discipline. And while I hate to say it, but if you want to hang out with your friends too much, then you're probably not going to make it.
I understand.
It is incredibly hard for a 16, 17, 18-year-old to actually do nothing but Counter-Strike and to say no to these things. Especially but that's also why I feel like that a lot of whether you like this or not, this might offend some people, but that's one thing that you have to do if you have a lot of friends. A lot of the pro players that you actually see are really intelligent people that don't have a big social interaction in their everyday life. So what do? They go online and they play CS instead, and they become automatically extremely good. Then you can discuss to an extent whether that's healthy or not, but it's definitely necessary if you want to go pro.
Yeah. I love how our talk kind of spirals back into the topics of sacrifice and work ethic. Whatever question we discuss, it comes back into how important both of these are in order to make it to the next level of your career, whether it would be going from amateur level to a team level, from team level to semi-pro level, and from semi-pro level to pro level. I
think that's no matter what you do in life, actually. If you want to become successful, that's what you have to do, no? Doesn't matter what you do. I guess that goes for literally everything you want to do.
It really does. It really does. Torbjørn, you shared some invaluable insights with me today, and our listeners, obviously. Those are the most important here. And I just want to thank you for this and for the work you've done with me, for me, and you will continue to do so in your future teams. And I hope to see you around. Thank you.
You will. See you soon, Martin.
Huge shout out to my coffee members for your continual support so I can make more videos like this for you. Their name is on the screen right now, and if you want to appear here to check out my coffee page where you can gain tons of cool and exclusive perks at various tiers of membership. And when I say they're cool, I mean it. Give it a look, it's worth it. Thank you for making my content better and possible.